At 87 years old, Jane Fonda has lived a life filled with legendary films, unforgettable roles, and stories that Hollywood still whispers about. But no one expected her to reveal something this personal, this surprising, and this brutally honest. In a recent interview, Jane Fonda was asked a simple question about her long life in Hollywood, but her answer instantly became global news. She didn't talk about awards, scripts, or fame. Instead, she talked about the four actors she says were, well, disappointing in bed. It wasn't meant to embarrass anyone, she said. Instead, it was part of her long journey of honesty and self-reflection. Jane has reached a point in her life where she hides nothing, fears nothing, and speaks with complete freedom. For decades, fans have wondered, what was it really like for Jane Fonda behind the scenes, when the cameras weren't rolling and the Hollywood dreams faded into real-life relationships? Jane has worked with some of the most famous, most handsome, and most admired men in the world. So when she finally admitted that not all of them lived up to the fantasy, people were shocked. But for Jane, this was not gossip, this was truth. And she shared it with a calm smile, as if she had been waiting years to let these secrets breathe. This chapter sets the stage for everything that will follow: the names, the stories, the reasons, and the lessons Jane Fonda learned from each experience. Because for Jane, this isn't just about romance. It's about power, honesty, and a life fully lived. Why did Jane Fonda wait until the age of 87 to talk about something so private? The answer is simple. She no longer cares about Hollywood politics or protecting anyone's image. She isn't promoting a film. She isn't looking for attention. She's just speaking freely. In her own words, she said age has given her a beautiful kind of freedom. A freedom that makes her bold enough to share things younger actors would never dare say aloud. For decades, Jane protected the reputations of her co-stars and partners, even when those relationships left her disappointed or heartbroken. She has said many times that Hollywood in the 60s and 70s expected women to stay silent, smile, and play along. It was a world where powerful men controlled narratives, careers, and rumors. But Jane is no longer controlled by that world. Now, she reveals the names for one reason. I have lived a long life. I have seen too much. I have earned the right to be honest. She knows her words will shock people. She knows fans of these actors might get defensive, but she doesn't speak with bitterness. She speaks with clarity, like someone reviewing a long life and finally choosing to tell the whole truth. She said that speaking openly about intimacy is part of her mission to break shame, especially for women who spent their lives pretending everything was perfect. In this chapter, we understand that Jane's confession is not gossip for entertainment. It is the result of a long emotional journey, a journey that taught her honesty is the most powerful freedom anyone can have, especially at 87. The first actor Jane named surprised everyone. He was famous, universally admired, and loved by millions. On screen, he played the confident hero. Off-screen, he was known for his charm and effortless cool. But Jane said behind closed doors, the story was completely different. She didn't reveal the name with anger. Instead, she told it like a lesson, a moment that taught her something important about the difference between image and reality. She said this actor cared too much about himself. Everything he did felt like a performance, even in the most intimate moments. He was more concerned about how he looked than how she felt. Jane said it was like being with someone who was acting for an invisible audience, not sharing a real experience, and for her, that was the biggest disappointment. She explained that true intimacy requires connection, presence, and honesty, things this actor never offered. He was distracted, detached, and strangely insecure for someone who looked so confident on screen. When Jane told the story, she didn't laugh or make fun of him. She spoke with compassion, acknowledging that fame shapes people in strange ways. This chapter reveals the painful truth Jane learned. Even the biggest stars, the most admired men, can be incredibly lonely and disconnected. Fame doesn't make you good at love. Fame doesn't make you generous, and fame certainly doesn't guarantee chemistry. Jane's first disappointment taught her to never confuse a glamorous image with real emotional depth. Jane's second name shocked fans even more. This actor was known for being wild, adventurous, and full of life, but Jane said that when the cameras were wide, he simply didn't try. He expected everything to happen without effort, as if being famous was enough. She said he treated intimacy like a routine, something quick, rushed, and thoughtless. Jane shared that this actor was the type of man who believed women existed to admire him, not someone he needed to connect with. He lived in a world where everything came easy: roles, praise, relationships. So he never learned the importance of giving attention, care, or emotional presence. Jane said very calmly, he didn't understand women. He didn't think he needed to. For Jane, it wasn't the lack of chemistry that hurt the most. It was the lack of respect. She said, intimacy is a reflection of how someone sees you. And this actor saw her not as a partner, but as another accessory in his glamorous life. She said he wasn't cruel or mean. He was simply careless, and that was enough to make the experience one of the worst in her life. This chapter highlights an important lesson Jane learned. Effort matters more than reputation. And sometimes the most disappointing experiences come from people who think they don't need to try at all. Jane described the third actor she named as beautiful on the outside, chaotic on the inside. He had a powerful career, a massive fan base, and a reputation as one of Hollywood's most intense personalities. But Jane said his ego ruined everything, including intimacy. He talked constantly about himself, his body, his fame, his achievements. Jane said being with him felt like listening to a never-ending monologue. He wasn't unkind, he wasn't cold, he was simply unavailable, lost in his own world, his own insecurities, and his own obsession with being admired. Jane said intimacy with him felt like she was invisible. He never asked what she liked, what she wanted, or how she felt. He assumed he was great, legendary, unforgettable. But Jane said the truth was the opposite. She described the experience as lonely, a kind of loneliness you can only feel when someone is physically close but emotionally absent. This actor never created connection. He created distance, and that made him one of the worst partners Jane ever had. This chapter shows how ego, even more than lack of skill, destroys intimacy, because true connection requires humility, something this actor never had. No one expected Jane to mention this actor, the one who wasn't bad because of selfishness or ego, but because he simply didn't care enough to stay. Jane said this actor was tender but inconsistent, kind one moment, distant the next. He made her feel seen, then ignored her for days. The intimacy itself wasn't the problem. It was the emotional instability that made the whole relationship painful. Jane said he lived with a restless spirit. He couldn't stay still, couldn't commit, couldn't give himself fully to anyone. He loved freedom more than connection, adventure more than stability. And even though Jane felt deeply attached to him, he broke her heart by disappearing emotionally long before the relationship ended. She didn't speak his name with anger but with sadness, the sadness of someone who remembers what could have been. She admitted that being with him made her feel small, insecure, unsure of herself, and that emotional pain made the physical connection feel empty. This chapter reveals that sometimes the worst experiences aren't about skill or ego, but about inconsistency, the slow breaking of trust, the disappointment of loving someone who can't love you back. Jane's stories reveal something most fans forget. Hollywood is built on illusion. The most handsome, most admired men can be the most disappointing behind closed doors, because what we see on screen is a character, not the real person. Jane said many actors hide behind their roles, using fame as a shield to avoid vulnerability. She said Hollywood encourages men to be desirable, not emotionally intelligent, to be charismatic, not caring, to perform confidence, not develop genuine connection, and those habits follow them everywhere, even into their most private moments. Jane admitted she fell for the illusion many times. She believed the fantasy, she believed the image, But over time, she realized that true connection can't be faked, it can't be rehearsed, and it can't be created by fame. This chapter exposes the truth about the emotional emptiness that often hides behind glamour. Jane's honesty helps fans understand that Hollywood relationships are rarely what they appear to be. Each disappointing experience taught Jane something important. The first actor taught her that confidence can be fake. The second taught her that effort matters more than reputation. The third taught her that ego destroys everything. And the fourth taught her that emotional connection is more important than chemistry. Jane said these lessons shaped her entire life. They helped her recognize what she truly needed: respect, honesty, presence, and stability. She learned that intimacy is not about perfection. It's about emotional safety. And that safety only exists with someone who values you, listens to you, and sees you as an equal. She said many women stay silent about disappointing experiences because they fear judgment or shame. But Jane believes silence protects the wrong people. Sharing the truth helps women understand their worth. This chapter shows how Jane turned painful memories into powerful lessons that shaped her future. Even though she revealed these names, Jane said she doesn't regret being with any of them. She said every relationship, good or bad, helped her grow. She doesn't blame the actors. She doesn't feel bitterness. She simply acknowledges the truth. At 87, Jane sees her life as a long, complicated, beautiful story. And every chapter matters. She said she lived through heartbreak, confusion, bad relationships, and moments of deep insecurity. But those experiences helped her find strength, confidence, and self-awareness. Jane believes regret is a waste of time. She said everything she went through brought her to where she is today, strong, peaceful, and unafraid to speak the truth. This chapter explores how she turned disappointment into wisdom and why she believes honesty is more empowering than silence. When Jane revealed the names, Hollywood exploded with reactions. Some stars defended her, calling her brave for speaking the truth. Others said that she should have stayed silent. Fans rushed to social media, trying to guess which actor she meant, arguing about clues and timelines. But Jane didn't comment further. She didn't explain or apologize. She said her story was hers to tell, and she told it. The actors she named remained silent, perhaps embarrassed or unsure how to respond. Hollywood is a place where image is everything, and Jane's honesty shattered some carefully built images. This chapter shows the ripple effect of honesty, how one confession can shake an entire industry built on reputation. In her final reflections, Jane said something powerful. Women owe the world their truth. She believes silence protects the wrong people, and sharing her experiences is her way of freeing herself and encouraging others to do the same. At 87, Jane is more fearless than ever. She speaks with wisdom, courage, and clarity. She said intimacy should never be about fear, ego, or performance. It should be about connection, kindness, and honesty. Her confession is not just a story about 4 disappointing actors. It is a message about the importance of valuing yourself, speaking openly, and refusing to protect bad behavior. Jane Fonda has lived through fame, heartbreak, joy, regret, and triumph. And now, at this stage of her life, she has nothing to hide. This final chapter leaves us with her most important lesson: speak the truth, no matter how long it takes to say it.